Okay, so I have got an introduction slide next after this one, so I'll go through that in a moment. But what I wanted to talk to you about today is kind of demystifying the pelvic floor, understanding what pelvic floor dysfunction is, learn how everything's connected, and I'm going to give you some practical tools. So that is kind of an overview of what I'm going to teach you. But yes, who am I? Because I've got my slides the wrong way around. My name is Jayne Smith now. I have to keep getting used to that. I got married in February, luckily, just before lockdown. So I am the owner of Connect Health, Fitness and Wellness. And I started off my fitness life as a bootcamp instructor back in 2015. And I got into helping women with their pelvic floor through being a bootcamp instructor and having women come up to me and say, do you mind if we don't do star jumps because I might wee my pants, or box jumps or running or anything like that? And it was like, what are you talking about? Because I haven't had kids yet. So I didn't really know. And I was kind of like, okay, just walk or do calf raises. And it's a common thing in the fitness industry that people don't really know what to do. We know how to rehab knees and shoulders and things like that. But at the moment, somebody who has the confidence to say, excuse me, I can't do this because I might pee, will kind of go, oh, okay, well, here's a pad, or sorry, that's not my scope. So I kind of went down a rabbit hole, found Holistic Core Restore, which is a company based in the UK, and they were founded on this lady's pelvic floor journey, and she coaches other coaches, and this is her baby. This is her project and her work. There's 15 different programs to help women at every life phase. So I'm proud to be the one and only currently New Zealand coach. And I also run the Women's Wellness podcast. If you know anyone or you want to learn about women's health in different aspects, not just pelvic floor, I interview different people on there. So a little pelvic floor facts to start things off. 1 in 3 women experience pelvic floor dysfunction. And that's why I said at the beginning that at the gym, as a personal trainer, I might have had one person say, do you mind me not doing this because I might pee myself? But there could be half a dozen other women who aren't saying anything. And it's quite common. 1 in 3 is quite a high number. I want to also just put a disclaimer out there that it's not normal. Just because it is 1 in 3, it's not a normal thing. You might be going, oh yeah, I've had 3 kids, I've had this, I've had that. It's normal. I've just got to expect it and live with it. It's not. It's just something that is a result of something else, but it can be rehabbed like anything else. So that's a little positive thing to start with. It can be rehabbed. So what is pelvic floor dysfunction? It covers a few things. So the first one being incontinence. And I can hear little giggles. And incontinence can cover wheeze or farts. It can cover your bowel. It can cover your bladder. It can happen. So there is what is called stress incontinence, which is the incontinence that happens when you cough or sneeze or laugh a bit loud or shout at the kids or run or jump at all. It's that kind of impact that can cause it. There is also urge incontinence, where you might feel that you need to go and there's no holding it. You've got to go now or you're going to pee your pants. And that's urge. You're not able to hold on past that urge. And that could be kind of key in the door syndrome, all sorts of things like that. And you can have both together. They're not mutually exclusive. And urge incontinence can sometimes be linked to an overactive pelvic floor. So it's not just a pelvic floor that's too weak. It could be too tight and a bit aggravated and a bit stressed, and it's not able to relax and flex and move in reaction to, say, coughs or sneezes or just holding it. The next one, and one I'm not really going to cover too much today, is prolapse, but it is worth a mention. So this poor lady, she has laid her egg completely. This is defined as a lowering or dropping forward of an internal organ. So, I mean, a hernia can be classed as a prolapse as well. So if there's too much pressure and you feel kind of a drop downstairs, so either, I'm going to say an anatomically correct terms, so just putting it out there before, in case you want to shove kids away. So it could be that your bladder has fallen down a little bit due to lack of connective tissue. Something might be a bit slack inside, or something might have given way, and the bladder might fall into the vagina, or the rectum. The bowel could do the same thing. That could fall down, that could go into the vagina, or the uterus itself could drop down, or the cervix. And that's kind of more after hysterectomies, the latter one. And yeah, that I'll go into a little bit more in a moment. And diastasis. So diastasis recti, or tummy split, or abdominal separation, or whatever it is you want to call it, that is linked to the pelvic floor. So if there's something wrong there, if there's a gap there, and you're having trouble with feeling disconnected to your core, that can talk to the pelvic floor as well. It just means the messages aren't quite getting through. So I hope you're sitting down, because everything's just a bit heavy to start with. But what can cause the pelvic floor to have issues? There's quite a few. So the first one, let's just get rid of that. Unfortunately, being a woman, so we have 3 holes, not 2. And that third hole, that third channel down the middle, is kind of how we get more effective with things like prolapse. And it just means there's less muscle there. Being overweight. So a lot of this is due to pressure management. If there's excess weight inside your abdomen, there's excess weight pushing down on the pelvic floor. Same with sitting. If you're sitting a lot at a job, there's a lot of pressure going straight onto the pelvic floor and on your sitting bones. It's not traveling through your legs. Everything is, again, pressing on there. Weightlifting. If you're a gym bunny and you're going to try and do lots of deadlifts or squats, and you're holding your breath like this poor lady here, you can have that extra weight bearing down on the pelvic floor, and something's got to give, and more often than not you will leak a little bit or pass wind. So if you ever heard anybody try and do sit-ups at the gym and it's that's because they're not managing internal pressure. And it's not just that, it's constantly lifting kids if you're a carer, and lifting adults, lifting boxes at work, all of those things. So general life activities. If you're quite flexible, that can affect how things, a tightness of things. Pregnancy. How many more have I got coming, do you think? So pregnancy, kind of like overweight and obesity, it's the pressure that's building down with that growing baby is going to be pushing and stretching and playing chopsticks on your pelvic floor. And surgery, so things like a C-section, that can go through several layers of tissue, and again, it can affect your pelvic floor. Can go a bit tight, it can go a bit, oh my gosh, I don't like this, and it might have trouble relaxing, it might have trouble getting the messages through. And also just even an appendix, if you've had your appendix taken out, different surgeries can affect things that can either make things weak or tight. And last but not least, getting old. As we age, we lose elasticity and all of that, so more towards menopause. And along with coughing and the repetitiveness, one thing that was missed off this is if you suffer a lot with kind of bronchitis, asthma, or hay fever, emphysema and you've got a lot of chronic coughs, I mean, if you wanted to go and see where that feels on the pelvic floor, repeating that over and over again is going to cause issues. So after all that, how many of you are sitting there going, doing your Kegels? But do you know if you're doing them right? That is the question. That is the million-dollar question. So what do Kegels feel like? This is what they should feel like. So a Kegel is defined as a pelvic floor muscle contraction that feels like you're squeezing the pelvic opening. So like you're stopping the flow of wee or stopping passing wind, and you're lifting it up inside you. What it shouldn't feel like, and if you're sitting on a chair, I mean, you can pop your hand underneath around your perineum area between the vagina and the anus, and you can feel kind of lifting up and pushing down, because what it isn't, it's not a bearing down. So it's not a pushing as if you're going to do a poo, and it's not squeezing your butt cheeks. So the butt cheeks are external. Yes, they are related, but it's internal that we're looking at. And I want to show you these. So a bit of anatomy. The pelvic floor, if you can see here, I don't have my little pointer. There we go. So if we see here, it's a crude drawing. Everything's a bit more squished in than this, but it slings underneath. And if that wasn't there, I mean, it's a massive amount of muscles. You don't have to remember all of these, but it's a massive amount of muscles. And what I just described was just around the openings here. So what about all of these? If we're just focusing on this, these aren't really getting much work. So that's what I teach, is about getting all of these recruited. Because if these weren't there, all of these would fall out. You'd have no insides. So they're very important. I went through prolapse just before, but I wanted to delve a little bit deeper. So prolapse is if you have a bladder prolapse or a cystocele, you can notice inability to completely empty. So I just want to talk about symptoms for this one. You might have trouble maybe with UTIs. You might be getting infections, again, because things can't quite empty fully. You might feel like you have to put your fingers inside your vagina and push on the wall to empty. And it all depends on the grade. So prolapse is graded from grade 1 and 2 being inside, grade 3 and 4 being outside. This poor little chicken's probably got a 4, grade 4. Uterus. So this is the lowering, the descending of the uterus. And then the bowel, same thing. If you're having trouble with constipation, or you find that you're pushing on the wall of the vagina, on the back wall, to push and to aid emptying, it might be that there's a little bit of a prolapse there, or it's just constipation. But if you have issues with emptying, then that could be part of it. And things like sex and inserting tampons and menstrual cups and things like that, you might notice you're having trouble because something might be in the way. And all of these I do recommend. I don't do internal checks, but I do have a directory on my website, which I can send you to if you wish. And that lists most of the women's health physiotherapists in New Zealand. I'm always updating it. And you can go and you can get these things checked out. So if you are worried that you might have this, definitely go and book in to see someone like that. So as I mentioned before, pelvic floor muscles work best when others are involved. It's not just a flying around pelvis with nothing else. It's not just about the pelvic floor. And this is a pet peeve. Squeezing at the traffic lights isn't going to do it. That's not going to cut the mustard. So if you see down the bottom, we've got anatomy of the abdominal muscles. You've got your six-pack muscles down here. You've got your obliques, you've got your external obliques, your internal obliques, and your transverse abs. These ones here are the ones that really stabilize you, stop you from falling over. These ones here help you to bend to the side. These ones here help you bend forward and backwards. These ones, that's it, that's it. These ones are the big daddies, the ones you want to look at. If you notice all the connective tissue though, where's it all going? It's all going down to your pelvic floor. I mean, you've got your hips here, left and right, so it's all connected. And the abs are also all connected all the way around your body. So it's not just about getting a good six-pack, it's about making sure all of these are functioning well and everything's talking together to give you the best results. And if you look here, this muscle here, the psoas major, they're your hip flexors. So if you're sitting down and you put your hands in your groin, and the muscles that help you kind of bend and lift your leg, that is that muscle. So that goes through your hips and it joins onto the front. So everything's involved and everything talks to each other. We've got to be nice to these bits. Which brings me on to diastasis. So a lot of people think that having a gap is kind of the end of the world. But if we look, it's a bit hard to see. I can't see anybody's faces or anything. But, oh yes, now I can get people to put their hands up. Yay, now I can see people. So hands up. And if you have any questions, please type them in the comments as well in the chat box and I can come up to them later. But hands up if you have a diastasis, if you've been checked, or if you know somebody, or if you've heard about it. Yes? Yes. So a diastasis, a lot of people go, oh, it's a gap. I've got a tummy gap. And that is basically this bit here. So during pregnancy, everything stretches. As you can see with this lady, compared to this one on the left, everything has stretched. So it's not just about that. That is just the point of the weakest point. So that's where it kind of all comes to a head. But all the connective tissue down the side, all of the muscles, they all stretch together. And 100% of women will have this by the time they've reached full-term pregnancy. 100%. It's whether or not how well it heals and how quickly it heals. Some it'll just spring back. Others it can take 2 years with work. Others it can take longer if they just don't know about it. So that is that. And I think my next slide is this lady. So this lady here, she went to a traditional boot camp and a traditional gym. If I just move my little pointer so I can press play again. There you go. And she had a diastasis. Well, at the moment she has a diastasis. And she was given bicycles, and she was given planks, and she was given Russian twists and sit-ups and all of these things to help strengthen her core, all these core exercises. And then she came to see me, and it was just making things a heck of a lot worse. Everything was just going pop, 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 which I don't know if it'll let me play again. So pop. And when she came to see me, it was like, oh my gosh, what's going on? Right. And over time I'll show you a good news story at the end. But what we worked together with was getting everything involved. And again, with bicycles, it's so easy to hold your breath that it causes things to get pushed out or pushed down. And so I wanted to show you this. This is where we start seeing the light at the end of the tunnel now. We're going to go into some practical things. I want to just have a little pause and watch this. Obviously, this one's breathing a bit quickly, but everything is connected. So if you look at the top, you've got the diaphragm. When we breathe in, the diaphragm kind of flattens off to allow the oxygen to be drawn into the lungs. But we've got air inside us, like we're not a vacuum inside our tummy. So that gets displaced, that pushes our tummy out. It stretches the back wall. So if you remember from a few slides ago, everything's connected. And that pressure gets sent down onto the pelvic floor. Then when we breathe out, the diaphragm goes up. And of course, that air doesn't need to be pushed down, so everything comes up, including the pelvic floor. Does that make sense? We're going to have a practice. So what I want you to do is called the purposeful exhale. So as you exhale, just do it in your own time. As you exhale for a count of 8, I want you to really listen to your body and see where you're feeling the tension. So if you're feeling your abdominals tighten, if you're feeling anything in your back, you might feel it if you've got your back against a hard back chair, or if you're feeling any tightening or drawing up of the pelvic floor. I'll keep my mouth shut for a minute while you do that. So it's a long, slow out breath. Basically, at least the count of 8 or until you've got no air left in your body, and just see where you can feel it. Most of you should be feeling something in the tummy as it squeezes around the diaphragm. Everyone's still alive and no one's passed out from who I can see anyway, so that's a good start. Did you feel anything in your tummy? Yeah? Did you feel, hands up if you felt anything in the pelvic floor? Any kind of tightening or a little bit? A little bit? So it's kind of like a syringe is coming in, it's going and sucking the air in, and then it's going from the bottom up, kind of like that. So keep that in mind. I'll come to the chats in a moment. All right, so posture can help or hinder pelvic floor function. So if you're slouching back on the chair, you might notice more pressure on the back of your pelvic floor, so around your anus. If you're leaning forward, you might feel more pressure on the front of your pelvic floor. If you're sitting up nice and tall and you can feel your sitting bones equally, that is kind of optimal sitting position. And just check with your breathing if you feel anything different when you're sitting up. Because if you're upright as well, you're opening your chest, you're going to get more air into your body. This is when I use easy air for this one actually, which I'll cover in a bit. Make sure everything's open. So we're going to go through some visualizations, but first I want to make sure you're sitting up nice and tall again. The first one, this one I like to use for our fast twitch exercises. So imagine you were doing you kind of squeeze to stop the flow of wee or squeeze to stop wind. But now imagine that your pelvic floor muscles is like a jellyfish, how a jellyfish swims, and it goes through the water and it's going up and down, up and down. And it's a lot more inclusive than just kind of squeezing to stop the flow of wee. That's good. That's a good one for practicing quick reactions. The next two are good for the longer endurance. So this one, these are ones that people have liked over the years. So this one, if you can imagine that your pelvic floor muscles are reaching down, grabbing a peanut and picking up, and you're picking it up inside you. So that one's a different one. My personal favorite, I don't know, let me just hide those to make sure you can see it, is the claw machine. So anyone who's ever played on a claw machine, this one's a working one. You get a toy every time. So you're reaching down and imagine that your tailbone at the back is part of the claw, your pubic bone at the front is another part of the claw, and you're going grab and lift. So that one is my favorite. And this is kind of how it all flows. So if I see if I can move this to the top. No, that'll do. So the traditional Kegel, we'll add them all together now. So sitting up nice and tall, I want you to just imagine squeezing the front of the pelvic floor to stop a wee. And I want to note here as well, you never do this while you're sitting on the toilet. That is time to relax, not to tighten. And then relax it. And I just want you to rate that. So you don't have to tell me, but you can just rate it in your heads what it was out of 10. 10 being amazing, 1 being, what am I doing? And next, we'll go for the back passage. Imagine you're in a crowded lift, you're surrounded by people, and you don't want to fart. So you're squeezing, and then relax. And again, just think out of 10, what that's like. 10 being amazing, yep, felt it, without squeezing your butt cheeks. 1 being, I don't know. So the next one is now imagine we've got whatever visualization you liked before. You've got your pubic bone at the front, your tailbone at the back, or your coccyx and pubis. And now, with that visualization of the claw machine, the elephant, whatever, imagine you can bring those together and then you're lifting them up inside. So are we getting a bit more bang for your buck? Is it getting a bit more like, oh yeah, cool, sweet. So now I want to add that breath that we did before. So we're adding it all together. So again, you're going to go out, breathing out for a count of 8. So what I want you to do this time is when you breathe out, you're going to bring your pubic bone and your tailbone together and lift the pelvic floor. For as long as you can, as long as that breath is going out, and then relax when you've finished. And we will do that one again. So those of you with a diastasis, if you're feeling any disconnect to your tummy, I want you to now think, so the pelvic floor lift is still going to go, but as you do the breathe out, see if you can listen to your tummy. You can feel that tummy tensioning, drawing in and connecting. So when you breathe out, it's going to be coccyx and pubis together and lift, and the tummy tightening to push that air out. Okay, so we are going to go on to one more. So add light resistance and a pre-tension. Press your palms together. So now, same thing. We're going to do the big breath in and out, breathing out for the count of 8 or until you have no air left in your body. Bringing the bones together, lifting. But this, you're going to press your palms together as hard as you can because the connective tissue through your arms goes through your chest into your abdomen, down at the pelvic floor. Everything talks together. So you're just going to breathe in and breathing out, pressing the palms together, pubis and coccyx come together, lift, lift, lift the pelvic floor. Now rate that out of 10. You can get to a 15 if you're feeling really awesome, but if you got to an 8 or a 9, that's great. If you got 2 points higher than where you started, you're winning at life. If you're about the same, you can talk to me and we can go through things one-on-one. That's all right too. So what I do in my classes and when I coach people is we go through this bit at the start with like a full 90-minute session. And then we kind of, the aim is to get functional movement. Because as I said earlier on, there is no point in just squeezing at the traffic lights. Because yes, that might be tensioning and tightening those muscles while you're sitting still. But the moment you get up and move, or you get up to go to the toilet, you've forgotten what your pelvic floor is doing, because you've got to move everything else and it's not coordinated. So that's when kind of accidents happen. When you go, oh, I need to go to the toilet, you get up, you go to the toilet, you pee yourself on the way. So it's kind of adding things like lunges, like squats to get up out of a chair. So we just did that one. If you haven't got headphones in, then you can do a squat or a stand up out of a chair. Because if you've got little ones and you've got someone in your arms, you might not have the opportunity to lean on something else to get out of a chair. And that's when it could be a and a grunt to get out of a chair. So you can do it with me. I might not stand up because I have got headphones in and I'll pull everything everywhere. But adding the movement, breathing in, and as you breathe out, you drive up, you stand up, and that's coccyx and pubis come together, lift the pelvic floor as you drive up out of the chair. So it's kind of an action of, and then relax when you come back down. Does that make sense? Hands up if it's feeling all right. Hands up if it's not. I don't mind if it's not. I like people telling me when things aren't working, because then we can do something about it. So holistic core restore is what I do, and it is a whole body approach, and that's where my oils come in. So we look at nutrition, we look at constipation and toileting, because if you're bearing down a lot, that's a lot of pressure on the pelvic floor. Balancing hormones, so that's where our lovely On Guard cleaning products and all of that lovely things come in. Some meditation and me time, teach you things about stress and balancing everything and just finding that time for you. And I picked my 5 favorite oils that I like to use. I've got a bazillion, but these are my 5 favorite that I tend to bring out the most for my Every Woman coaching, which is my group coaching program. Easy air is first, because I like to just give people the opportunity to just clear everything, clear the air, get a nice big deep breath. It prepares them for that practice of getting ready, getting into that state. I mean, obviously I train people for life habits. So if you've got this in your pocket and you just have and you know. Next is, so caffeine is quite a big bladder irritant. So I give people peppermint to help them kind of wean off in the morning for a nice little pick-me-up, or any time of the day when they're trying to cut down on the coffee. Next, I mentioned we look at constipation and toileting habits. So things we do is like having a squatty potty, things like that. I teach them a nice little tummy massage, and we use Diastasis for that with a little bit of fractionated coconut oil. And we do a nice little massage just to help get things moving. We look at sleep and stress levels and getting a good sleep routine, because without good sleep, the body isn't geared up for healing. It's not going to go through its rest and recover cycle. So lavender's the first port of call, of course. I like lavender piece in the diffuser, but lavender is my first port of call for a lot of people. And then my boyfriend, everyone's boyfriend, but he's mine now, Mr. Frank, for just the pulling the hair out, trying to deal with stress, busy mind issues. Frank is my first little man I go to for that. And that is pretty much what I cover. That goes over 12 weeks. So it's kind of each, I have different ones that I bring in for different things, like lemon. I bring in sometimes to help with detoxes. I bring in the old On Guard, which I'll be bringing out again. Now we're all in lockdown again. So I'll be bringing out that and making sure everyone's got their sprays. But yeah. Oh, and yes, here's my little things can improve video. So the lady from the beginning, this was her after 6 sessions. If I find my mouse, where's it gone? So it's just a little pop now, because over those 6 sessions, we did work to manage intra-abdominal pressure, to manage how she moves, and it just strengthened everything up and got that whole core system working again. So that was like, yay. Not that I ever recommend that she does bicycles, but now she can do a couple without causing too much damage if she really, really wanted to. She understands how. But bicycles aren't functional. Who's going to be lying on your back doing things like that in real life? Don't answer that question. So this is kind of a snapshot of the things that I offer. So my recovery and diastasis programs, I do one-on-one. Recovery, I work online or in person. Diastasis, I do prefer to get my hands on people because I like to check the width of the gap and the depth of the gap. But I can coach you how to do that as well. And then the Every Woman, my next online course for that starts on the 1st of September. And that's just a group of women learning about the pelvic floor for an hour once a week with homework and community things. So I will go to the chat because it's been flashing. I didn't want to pop it up in the way of my share screen. So I'll have a look. Doo-be-doo. Oh no. Well, I think it worked, Amy, because you didn't pee yourself, I hope. I'm just going through everything now. So the visualizations worked. Feel like you're holding your back tight. If you're feeling tension through the back, that is great because it means that everything is talking to each other. But if you've got issues with back pain, maybe what I do is I do a lot of down training as well with people. So I'm just looking at, I'm assuming it's Buffy. It could be a Buffy. I feel like I'm holding my back tight. It was Joe. Yeah, so having, as you saw in that picture, everything goes round front to back. But if you've got tightness in the back muscles, we do a lot of kind of mobility work to start with, and then go through the program looking at strengthening and relaxing, and then down training at the other end, because there, as a mum or as just in general, we get so many stop points that to do the work without releasing would be foolish on my part to let you go through that. So yeah, zip up your jeans. Front to back and back to front. Yes. So I went to a Continence New Zealand course, and that was one of my first forays into pelvic floor stuff. And she showed a video from an ultrasound, and when you do the tensioning and everything, when you've got it right, the rectum actually kinks. It's like the pelvic floor muscles go whoop, around your rectum, and everything goes whoop, and brings it in. So, but yeah, zipping up the jeans is a good start, but that kind of looks into more the transverse abs, those deep abdominal muscles, because you're kind of drawing in your tummy as you zip up the jeans. But yeah, front to back is the bee's knees, because that's how they work anyway. Pelvic floor muscles, like any other muscles, are quite reactive. They will sense that something's going on somewhere else, and they'll go, oh, I need to prepare, I need to tighten, ready for something. Rebecca, how many times a day do you recommend doing these? I don't recommend doing them as in when you go to a physio and she says, right, do 10 long squeezes and 10 short flicks 5 times a day. I don't recommend that. What I recommend is so for example, when I do the Every Woman course, we do the hour-long functional movements and resistance and training and all of that. And then you have homework, and I always recommend you do kind of 15 minutes or a 20-minute video in the homework portal 3 times a week. That's it. That's it. Walk daily and find my pelvic floor can be weaker, even though I find a massive difference from walking. Are you walking a lot downhill? Flats. I mean, the pelvic floor will react to impact and uphill. The reason I ask that is because when you're going uphill, there is less impact. When you're going downhill, it's more of your foot hitting the concrete, and it's kind of a shock wave that goes up, and the pelvic floor kind of goes a little bit. Which is why I kind of recommend with prolapse recovery, those who want to get back into running, they start by going uphill before they go downhill, walk downhill. But throughout the day, the pelvic floor will fatigue, and the pelvic floor will feel weaker during different times of the cycle because hormone differences, hormone changes, especially leading up to kind of the start of your next cycle. Everything's getting ready to relax and slough away that lining and let it all go, that it can just mean that it's a bit harder to hold on sometimes. But what I teach, it's kind of teaching a habit. So I'm just trying to think about I think really it's about understanding the connection to your pelvic floor, feeling that lift, doing those exercises so that the pelvic floor then kind of knows what to do. Is it safe to do? Yeah, it is safe to do these exercises at any time. It depends on you. I mean, I know I get quite crampy like the first 2 days, and it might just be that I don't want to do so much of a big long breath and drawing in. I might focus more on the down training and the relaxing. But as long as you can feel the lift, even if it's just a little one, and then you spend half of the minute focusing on relaxing and letting go, that's good too. Because like a bicep, if you spent all the time doing this and didn't relax and it was all cramped up here and you're walking around like this all day, it would be tight and sore. So if during that time of the month when it is time for your period, things just might be already a little bit on edge, a little bit like this, so focusing on the relaxing just might be a bit more friendly for it. And you get to know your own body. That's the main thing of this. It's all about connecting to you and connecting to how it feels. And then kind of throughout the day, things do get fatigued and things do get tired. This question comes up a lot. Yes, so if I just bring up my hand. So imagine like I've got tailbone here, pubic bone here, and everything's going together and lift. When you relax, it is like, imagine I'm relaxing my hand. Relax. If you were bearing down, it's like that, and that's just too far. It's like if you said, relax your hand, and you went, I'm relaxing it, I'm not clenching it, I'm relaxing it. It's still kind of the opposite. So it's just close, lift, and then just a conscious let go. Just it's relaxed now kind of thing. Does that make sense? I can see nodding. It's so much. I mean, I've been studying this for, what year is it? What day is it? 2 years? 3 years now? And I'm still learning stuff every day and learning how my body works. And through different things, if I do different things, I notice that I'm tight in different areas. So then I have to focus more on relaxing some days than others. And yeah, the more you learn about your body, and the more you know kind of what to do. And you have access to the homework forever. With the Every Woman program, at least, you have access to that forever. The other stuff, you'd have to download it. But yeah, so you can always kind of re-log in and re-go through things. I don't know what time I'm on. How am I going for time? Oh, 6 minutes. That worked out all right. Yes, so as I said, the diastasis one and the recovery one, those, like, people can just book in for an appointment either in person or on Zoom. Probably Zoom is better at the moment. And I can talk to people like that. Every Woman, I have a group course starting online on the 1st of September. It is 9:30 in the morning, so it's a daytime one. But if you even wanted to just book in for a chat, it's just my website is connecthealth.fitness, and then to book it's just /book-online. But there is a little button at the top, and on that homepage, if you scroll down a bit, it says connect to your pelvic floor, connect to your nutrition, connect to your fitness. I do general fitness online as well, if one doesn't have these issues, but this is my true love.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Amy. That was so helpful. I will post this in the Essentialists group so everybody can watch it. That wasn't on live today. We're going through a bit of turmoil. So I'm sure there are a lot of people that are out panic buying and didn't quite make it on. And yeah, I will post your website link below so that everybody can get in touch with you that needs extra help. But I'm sure a lot of what you have actually taught today is really helpful as well. Yeah. Thank you so much.
That's it. If you can nuggets out of this, then you're winning, really. And
yeah,
then
absolutely.
To go further, I'm more than happy to chat with anyone.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Amy.